So let's start with the way Maurice Scott tried to spin his story. Child, when I tell you, I had to laugh right alongside Martell because what was that? Maurice was sitting there talking about his DUI situation, and the way he explained it had people looking at him like, "Are you serious right now?" He said he hit an animal, then he said it was a pole, then he added a tree into the mix. Like, which one is it? Was the animal climbing the tree when you hit it? Was the pole just standing there minding its business? The story was so all over the place that even Martell couldn't keep a straight face. Martell had uncontrollable laughter. I mean, tears in his eyes kind of laughter. Like somebody just told him the funniest joke in the world. And honestly, it did sound like a story a 9-year-old would make up just to get out of trouble. But here's the real kicker. Why even bring this story up now? Nobody was asking about it. Nobody was even talking about your DUI, Morris. And that's the part that had people scratching their heads. Like, was this a guilty conscience or just you talking too much? Because the more he explained, the more it sounded like he was just offering lies at this point. And let's be real, when you over-explain something that no one was pressing you about, it usually means you're covering something up. Keep watching because it only gets messier from here. Now, the conversation shifted back to the Vegas trip. And this is where it got really spicy. Maurice was asked whether he paid for that girl or how he even got in contact with her. He said he remembered her from Vegas because Marceau flew her out. And immediately, the energy in the room shifted. You could see Martell ready to pounce because the contradictions just kept piling up. If Marceau didn't fly her out, then why even bring it up? If you didn't know what Marceau did, then why not just say that never happened? Instead, it was this confusing back and forth like, well, I don't know what Marceau did, but... Child, if you know your brother isn't a cheater, you would have said it with your chest. Would have been like, nope, that never happened. That girl wasn't with us. But Maurice didn't say that. And that right there was a red flag. And this is where Martell really turned up the heat. He straight up told Maurice, "You're lying. You did have sex with her. We were all for out together." Now, that right there had Kimmy sitting there looking real uncomfortable because how do you defend that? Martell was confident. He wasn't even stuttering. He was like, "Nah, you lying." And let's be honest, when Martell said that, Maurice couldn't even look up. He put his head down with a little smirk, like he knew he had been caught. And then Martell dropped what I like to call the atomic bomb. "You a lawyer, sue me." Now pause right there, because that was the moment. If Maurice was really innocent, if all of this was just lies being made up, why wouldn't he sue Martell? He threatened to sue bloggers before. Remember when he gave that whole speech saying, "You have 24 hours to take it down, or I will"? Yeah, he had all the energy in the world for bloggers, but when it came to Martell, nothing. No threats. No lawsuits, just sitting there with his head down. That silence spoke volumes. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time Morris has lied to Kimmy's face. Y'all remember that reunion when he sat on stage and swore up and down that he wasn't in Atlanta and had never even met Ariane Curry? Bold-faced lie right in front of everybody. And what happened? Marceau later posted the picture proving he was there, and Ariane herself said they had big backs down there. I mean, come on now. Kimmy, you knew he was lying because the very next season you asked him about it and he brushed it off. But instead of holding him accountable, you just swept it under the rug. And that's what makes this situation even harder to watch. Because if they ever decide to bring Ariane Curry onto this show, it's going to blow up the whole Scott family. Latisha Scott will look like a fool, Kimmy will look like an even bigger fool, and everything they've been trying to hide will come out, and you already know Martell will sit back and laugh because this is exactly what he's been saying all along. That's why I'm telling y'all, don't go anywhere, because if Ariane ever steps onto the scene, the Scotts are finished. Now back to this Vegas situation. Maurice tried to gaslight Martell by asking him little pointless questions like, what color was the carpet? What did this look like? As if minor details would invalidate the bigger truth. But Martell didn't back down. He stood 10 toes down and kept saying, "Nah, you lying." And honestly, Martell was right for once. Because if Morris could sue bloggers but can't sue Martell, that tells me everything I need to know. And did y'all catch how awkward that meeting was when Morris sat down with Kimmy and Marsa afterward to try to clean it up? He told them that Martell only dragged him into it because he was mad about reunion stuff. But that wasn't even the full truth. Then he switched the blame and said the girl was the one who brought him up. And then he tried to act like he was concerned about Martell's mental health. Marsa shut that down real quick with, "Forget his mental health." That's the attitude Morris should have had if Martell was really lying. But the way Morris kept taking the concerned route made it obvious he knows Martell was telling the truth, just doesn't want to admit it. Kimmy sat there looking like the biggest fool of all time, laughing awkwardly in her pink feathers and Christian Dior headband, pretending like she believed the nonsense being said. Honestly, if fool was a person, it would have been Kimmy in that moment. And I hate to say it, but the desperation to stay as Scott has her putting up with lies right in her face. She looked uncomfortable, embarrassed, and honestly just stuck. Now, let's talk about Latisha Scott for a second, because did you notice she wasn't at that little sit-down? Yeah, that's because she doesn't want to keep addressing rumors about Marsa and these other women. Deep down, Tisha knows what's going on, but she's embarrassed. She doesn't want to keep being dragged through the mud on camera. And honestly, I can't even blame her because every season it's the same story, Marsa's name tied up in cheating allegations. And then we get to Destiny Payton. Lord, Destiny has given nothing this season except a little storyline with Lance. And even that feels like a reach. Okay. Because outside of Martell, what has Destiny brought us? We don't see her business, we barely see her son, and her friendships are non-existent. So now she's using Lance just to have something to talk about, but it's not giving what she thinks it's giving. Meanwhile, Martell is over here slaying everybody with his words. Say what you want about Martell Holt, but when he's locked in, he knows how to hit below the belt and expose things in a way nobody else will. If they ever bring Arian on, and Martell and Arian team up against the Scotts, it's going to be an absolute disaster for them. And honestly, it would be karma because they've been dragging Arian for years. Imagine her finally getting the chance to drag them back on national TV. The mess that would be. And that's why I keep saying make sure you stick around until the end, because every little piece of this puzzle shows you just how shaky the Scotts Foundation really is. They've been protecting each other's lies for so long, but it's starting to crack. Martell is laughing because he knows the truth is on his side for once.